And then what has happened over the last decade, it is really something that, to my opinion, it's a kind of mind-blowing situation in the sense that all of a sudden, with the hyperscalers, operators smashing the party, with the colocation operators, also appearing and scaling up their facilities and their operations. I mean, all of a sudden we found that the digital infrastructure trends were basically hitting like 20 megawatts per building, 40 megawatts, 60 megawatts per building. I mean, today, it's very easy and it's very regular to talk about even digital infrastructure campuses, which are in the range of 300 megawatts. Now, as soon as you start, addressing so much amount of energy, electrical energy, then for sure, we have to start thinking about how to manage the worst case scenarios.
Welcome to this episode of Data Centers on Fire, Managing the Power. Today I'm here with experts on power supply in data centers. We are here with experts to talk about how the power is managed, how the power is increasing in data centers, and how it's affecting our fire protection. So, Miguel Martinez, VID Firekill, welcome on this episode, Managing the Power. Here together with experts today on this episode, Managing the Power. I have the experts with me, so I think I will ask them also to just have a brief introduction themselves. On my left, Riccardo, perhaps you can start.
Yes, hello everyone. Riccardo Cerati, Global Business Development Director for VID Firekill, working over the last 15 years in the water mix industry together with sprinkler gas suppression, especially over the last 10 years in the data center market through edge, colocation and hyperscalers.
Antonio.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you very much for the kind invitation to talk on the podcast. I am Antonio. I'm from the Riello UPS group, and I'm the global responsible for the data center business.
Thank you. Umberto.
Yes, I'm Umberto Sordino. I manage EA Italy, but I'm also the global coordinator for the EA group, so for data center field. We are essentially one of the main companies in the world producing busbars. So busbars used both in the white space and in gray space in data center. So power is our main business.
Oh, wow. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Umberto, Riccardo, Antonio. Power, the main business. I think today's podcast is about power. Power is, of course, increasing in data centers. So I think the podcast episode talking about managing the power is the right word because we are managing it together. It's not that we are managing it from the fire protection perspective, but also, of course, from where the power is coming from. So, Antonio, if we start just with you, managing the power, what is changing? What is happening out there with the power?
And Miguel, thank you very much for the question. Maybe here, if you allow me, I would like to go with a little bit of an historical excursus of what has happened in terms of trends in the data center industry over the last 15 years.
Yes,
right?
please.
I recall when I started my first steps in the data center industry, always from an OEM supplier standpoint, right? We were talking about, computer rooms at the time, probably half a megawatt, 500 kilowatts, or we were talking about, even computer rooms or little data centers like 1 megawatts, per building. That was probably the power range. And then I recall that during the 2010, 2012 period, you started having the first expressions of data centers already in the range of 5 to 10 megawatts. And then what has happened over the last decade, it is really something that, to my opinion, it's a kind of mind-blowing situation in the sense that all of a sudden, with the hyperscalers, operators smashing the party, with the colocation operators, also appearing and scaling up their facilities and their operations. I mean, all of a sudden we found that the digital infrastructure trends were basically hitting like 20 megawatts per building, 40 megawatts, 60 megawatts per building. I mean, today, it's very easy and it's very regular to talk about even digital infrastructure campuses, which are in the range of 300 megawatts. Now, as soon as you start, addressing so much amount of energy, electrical energy, then for sure, we have to start thinking about how to manage the worst case scenarios. Because it's not anymore, that you're managing a little bit of a power here. We are managing, certain level of scales which are going very well beyond what we were even imagining 10 years ago. And,
Exactly.
from my perspective, I'm basically representing a company that it's very well known around the globe for UPS products, which are basically used and deployed in all the grayscales, to supply all the IT rooms afterwards downstream. And also producing gen sets, up to 5 MVA, really bespoke to and tailor-made. And as soon as you provide, equipment that goes into a gray space or even in a white space, but that is processing energy, is transforming energy from one form to another, then, of course, you have a lot of things that in the equation can really go terribly wrong. I know that experts, especially in the data center business, they don't like to hear that something could go wrong. But we as specialists and as professionals in the system, we also have to be honest to ourselves that things can go wrong at any time.
That's right.
So
that's right.
the key question is, how do we really face the challenges of managing, the worst conditions that can pop up in the environment?
That's a good one, Antonio. I think thank you also for the clear explanation on that growth. I think it's something that we are just have been having other episodes also in this case with Hilti, is the integration part. We are missing a bit just talking more to each other. So when we were talking about integrating, being on top of the ball, being in front of everything, seeing all these developments, it's always the question it's like, Umberto, who needs to address this question? Is it us as manufacturers sitting down together and talking together, or do we need an owner, or do we need a consultant doing this for us?
So I think that we as vendors, so to this industry, we are part of a chain. So a chain in which we have many different actors. So we have the tenants, we have the contractor, we have the owner, we have us, we have the consultant, and so on. And we have always to speak with all the players in each project. Even there are even other players, because there are also the institutions which are issuing the standards, and we see very often even the new standards. So it is always important to be aligned. We as EAE, we are for instance part of some work groups, even with the operators, in order to understand really from scratch their needs.
That's good.
Their needs in terms of each project, or their needs in terms of the general specs they apply, and this is happening with the operators. So it's happening also very often even with the consultants. We have also to be very flexible, very flexible, because possibly the standards are also different from country to country.
Yeah, that's right.
And so in general, I agree also with what Antonio said in terms of a general change in the market in the last, especially in the last 5 years. So to be so fast, so to follow so fast all the changes in the market is really a challenge. So it is a challenge in terms of cooperation with the consultants, with the operators, but it is a challenge also in terms of designing new products. We have always to understand which will be the need, so the needs in the market, possibly in the next 2 or 3 years and more, because clearly a new product, so it's not coming from today to tomorrow. No. So in these terms, it is also very important to create this kind of work groups with the other vendors. You mentioned Hilti. We are testing our bus bars with Hilti, so for the fire barriers.
Okay, wow.
And this is something also which is involving very much also so the work of VID Firekill. And we have to implement global possible solutions. We are also in touch very closely also with Riello. Me and Antonio, often we discuss about so how to install the bus bars. So for instance, on top of their switchboards. So I mean, there are really many issues, and I think that So the most important point is really to speak each other, be in very close contact each other.
Yeah, thank you for that, Umberto. I think what you were saying there is right. You named it, also us being more connected to understand that, but the good thing is we need to also to follow a standardization. We need to follow also perhaps some local ASJ requirements, also the customer requirements. But Riccardo, just going back what Umberto was saying, because that triggered me about the 2-3 years. We know, and like we know here, is that it's 2-3 years. I think 6 months is already like changing a lot within this industry. Well, I was at the end of the day the fire protection. We see boost bars, we see UPS systems, we see the UPS systems, the UPS rooms. We see batteries entering the data hall. 2-3 years, is that too long? You think?
2-3 years could be like even 10 years perhaps. I fully agree with Umberto when he's talking about connecting each other. I think as we discussed also in other podcast series, integration is the key of everything. Being close all together can definitely help the industry, because that industry is driven by technology, is driven by customer and client needs that are much, much faster than local codes, are much, much faster even than what's available out there, even much faster than the power itself. If you look what's happening between the time to power and the time to build, the time to build is, I believe, 10 times faster than the time to get the power. So the more we are connected to each other, the more we can solve all those headaches that we can have. And when again from global to local, of course, then we have all those local compliances, and we see also those power increase getting and generate new issues for the fire protection. Combination like of amount of cable trays, the amount of batteries increase, the presence of lithium-ion batteries, both LFC or NMC. Sometimes we also discuss with the clients and we say, look, you know which type of battery you have in your racks? And they say, yes, it's lithium-ion. I say, but you know which type? I say, no. Do you know that every type has a different risk? You know that every type can lead to different hazards? You know that one is stable and one not? No, they don't know it because that's not their scope. Their scope is to build fast, is to go live fast, and to be driven by the technology. So at the end of the day, this is affecting the fire protection in a way that we need to be always uptime. We need to be always uptime in terms of testing and to make sure that we are covering the presence of the lithium-ion batteries in the data halls, outside the data halls, even outside the buildings within the containerized pods, or the large amount of cable trays, or the larger amount of bush bars that we are seeing in the building. That is not a fire load specifically, but it's an obstruction for a nozzle spray, for example.
Yeah. I think you said a few things. Uptime is a very recognized item. I just heard using, of course, from global to local. That's one in there, and a change also in that infrastructure. So, Antonio, I've been involved in very designs on the fire protection side also, and I've been seeing the change. And then I think we now reached the e-pods stage. So first it was a different setup. Now we reached that e-pod. So how is Riello UPS just staying on top of the ball? So how is Riello just, because if they change the pod, then somebody gets an e-pod in. So how is Riello doing that?
So just maybe to provide you a little bit of an idea on our business model. I mean, we are basically a product supplier. We are a component supplier. And when it comes basically to the e-pods market, we typically address this type of market through always system integrators, the pods manufacturers. Also because, I mean, for that type of scale, you need to have, different type of skill sets. You need to have different type of engineering and so on. But what I can tell you is that the new trends for the new data centers is really going more down the road of the e-pods or e-houses. Also because, I mean, with the scale or the time scale that I have in mind, like deployments done within 12 months or 16 months or 18 months, there is actually the only way to go ahead is to have prefabricated type of solutions where you actually try to combine all the components, really quickly within one single box and you basically deploy to site. So what we do, we basically team up with all the system integrators. However, I can tell you that within the power pod and within the e-house, I mean, to me, power and fire, they are two sides of the same coin, right? But as soon as you start, being in a kind of e-pod, this is the maximum expression of where all the technologies they have to integrate with each other and where you need to have a very high alert level and awareness on how you design fire protection systems. Because in the same box, or in maybe in two box, like two containers high cube standard cubes. You may have switchboards, you may have UPSs, you may have batteries, you may have bus ducts, you may have protection systems, you may have cooling. You have the whole central power distribution architecture of your data center or of your digital infrastructure. And there you can find components having, or products having, different type of requirements on how they have to be treated in case of fire or in case of emergency, right? And this is basically where I would like to also connect to what Umberto just said before. I mean, we really need to have, certain level of group level discussions where there is a kind of quasi standardization on how you address the needs of power and fire within the same box. What I can tell you, for example, shortly ago, I was actually at the stand. We are in London at the Excel today, right? So I was at the stand, and for privacy reason, I'm not going to say who was there. But I mean, a very dear friend and clients came by, and he brought a different perspective to this. Of course, being him a representative of a data center, he sees challenges that are not just on the level of the technicalities, but challenges can go even one step forwards. They look at after insurance, they look at after claims with their own client bases. So these are all things that at some point they have to merge. All these requirements, commercial and technical, they have to merge. And we OEM, our responsibility is to provide the right guidance in the selection of the right methods for suppression of the fire or suppression of the critical situations.
Okay, that's a very, very broad explanation also in there. So you're listening still to your customers, and that's what we all are doing, I think. Umberto, because you're managing a few countries, you see from global to local what Riccardo is indicating. You're talking with Riello also about the developments there and what could be the next step.